Welcome, Mr. President. Welcome to the United Arab Emirates, and welcome to the Abu Dhabi Sustainability Week. Just so that we can gauge the audience, you were previously asked who visited Madagascar, and we had a few hands up, and I wanted to ask the audience the same question. Any visitors to South Africa?
No one has visited South Africa.
Not quite. And I'm sure as visitors to this incredible country, you were able not only to see its site, but to really absorb, Mr. President, its incredible potential, not only in solar and wind and energy, but also its incredible potential in its people, but also its nature, a topic that is very close to my heart. Mr. President, as the G20 President, you have championed an idea that's very close to the United Arab Emirates. This idea that the energy transition is really seen as an engine for opportunity, for hope, for economic development, and not really a burden imposed on developing countries. Could you perhaps elaborate the relationship between economic development and climate action?
Yes, no, it's wonderful to sit here with you, to share some thoughts on this vexed question. Is it climate action or economic growth? Now, quite often people see this as a trade-off, that you have to protect the planet or have economic growth. Now, I see this as not being mutually exclusive. The two have to be seen as mutually reinforcing, because you can have climate action and at the same time have economic growth. And in fact, countries that have embarked on climate action strategies have found that those interventions do finally yield economic growth. So therefore, one needs to see climate action as a driver and an enabler for economic growth. The more we embrace clean energy, the more new technologies come about, new opportunities open up, and we find that there are new subsectors of the economy that are established, and where we might close certain subsectors, new ones open. And so therefore, it's not a binary question. It's a mutually inclusive and reinforcing approach. And this is what the world needs to embrace now. And in fact, I find that more and more countries that do so do experience higher levels of growth. There are many countries that are driving their economies now through taking climate action, recalibrating their energy portfolio, and making sure that they look after the planet. And so the two go hand in hand. We do not need to focus on one. If we focus on one only, on economic growth to the detriment of taking climate action, you'll find that in the long term, you have economic stagnation or reversal. And if you focus on the other one only, you'll find that your economy may seem to grow, but it will not grow well in the end. So a dual approach, focusing on both, can actually drive the economy forward. That's precisely what we have decided to do in South Africa.
Incredible, incredible. Thank you, Mr. President. But also beyond recognizing the importance of this dichotomy, under your leadership, you also pushed a different partnership narrative, or perhaps a new model of international partnership that wasn't just talk. because it actually mobilized more than $15 billion in investment in renewable energy in Africa, and that's just in 1 year.
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit more about this partnership approach and cooperation that we might draw lessons from, particularly in the geopolitics of today?
Well, in the face of having to take action on climate change, we needed to lift our gaze beyond the horizon and ask ourselves, what do we do in the face of having to address the damage to our climate and the emissions? And by the way, one should start off by saying the African continent is least responsible for the climate damage, and yet we are having to carry the burden of what other locales in the world have done to climate change. Notwithstanding that, we decided that we now need to put our best foot forward and find solutions, and the solutions we came up with was to mobilize international funding, and fortunately we were able to mobilize $1.5 billion to be invested in South Africa. But that whole process was based on our own design.
Right.
We did not have it imposed on us. We did not have, if you like, Western powers or Western economies imposing solutions on us. It was nationally designed, and we then put it forward to those who could provide finance. And it then came up with a number of advantages. One of the advantages was we were able to raise finance smartly. We were able to raise fairly good blended finance initiatives, grants, concessional funding. So the blended finance architecture was quite good and was innovative. And we should say that we were first from the starting blocks. And we're very pleased that a number of other countries in the global south have followed in the wake of what South Africa did. So we became leaders, and what that enabled us to do is to attract investment. We now have attracted South Africa, particularly in the northern part of our country, in the Northern Cape, which is the better radiation area in the world, more than 110 billion rands in investments in that part of the country. And that has happened because it was South Africa designed, and we enhanced cooperation, and we got the financiers to work with us. So there was nothing imposed on us like it has happened in the past. In the past, financiers have focused on what they could get out. Yeah. And we have said we need cooperation. So a cooperative process has now been followed, and both of us are involved, the financiers and the recipient country of finance and grants and concessional loans have participated with us. So this, in our view, has led to a very good end, but more than that, it sets out very good examples for other countries to follow. So we are pleased that many other countries have followed in our wake. Indonesia and a few others have started doing exactly the same thing. Yeah. So we're really pleased.
Absolutely. I mean, as you said, the tenets of cooperation really revolve on the parties recognizing their needs, their assets, what they can bring to the table. And when you talk about the continent brings a lot to the table. Its potential, as I said earlier, in terms of solar, in terms of wind, in terms of green hydrogen, but also in terms of nature and biodiversity, is one that I think we can all be proud of. Mr. President, a final question. How, in a few words, do you envision the continent's role in shifting from an energy importer to an energy and ideas powerhouse that integrates all of its assets, including nature?
Well, I think Africa has a great opportunity when it comes to energy generation. We've got one of the greatest endowments in the world: the sun, the wind, and our mighty rivers. So a combination of all three, as well as our minerals, gives rise to great opportunities where we can generate energy. 600 million people on the African continent still lack electricity. And that in itself, rather than being a challenge, we see it as an opportunity, a great opportunity at that we can utilize all these endowments, our minerals, instead of exporting rock, soil, and stones. We should now beneficiate, add value to our minerals so that they are properly utilized in the energy generation. Green hydrogen. Africa is the center where green hydrogen can be greatly utilized. We can utilize our solar, our wind, and in doing so, Africa can and should find itself as being an exporter of energy. And the future, therefore, for Africa is a great one, and this is where we invite financiers, we invite investors to come to the African continent. Because if you want growth, you should come to Africa. We've got great opportunities for generating energy, for infrastructure development. Infrastructure development in Africa is going to explode by leaps and bounds. And on the back of energy generation, and on the back of good financing and clever financing models, we will be able, as a continent, to see higher levels of growth. So, like President Tinubu was saying, I will invite you not only to go to Nigeria and South Africa, but to come to the African continent and come and invest there. That is where the future is. Thank you very much.
There we have it, ladies and gentlemen. A big round of applause for President of South Africa. Thank you for your words of wisdom, sir. And looking forward to our visit.
Thank you.